Today we come to Berriew, a small village a few miles south of Washpool, and proudly describes itself as the winner of Best Kept Village, as you can probably see. And it's not the sort of place I'd probably be comfortable living in, and they probably wouldn't want me living here either. There's nice little tea rooms by the Lich Gate. Lich Gate tea room is actually quite nice. You have a butcher over the road. So it's, yeah, old corner shop. So look what we have over here. Yes, you can get past. Oh, you get the idea. Nice little place if you like this sort of thing, which reminds me a bit of Surrey. There is a rather nice church here, as you can see, painted, and the Andrew Logan Museum sculpture. See in a minute as I just cross the Berriew and down the river here. We also have the canal that crosses the river. So Berriew, right, holding up the traffic. Those are the Berriew Falls. Now let's sit in a minute. It's Overton. There's a lovely cycle down here. It's nice. It's nice to cycle down here by the canal in the summer. Have a look around the pubs along the canal as well. There's the Talbots and the museum just down the road there. Where's he going? Up that way. I think. And they have a nice community garden. Just try and cross without getting run over. That's the roads too. Betos Cadewine behind me. So, wander around here. That's the woodland garden. Yeah. So, there's been paroxysms. I remember coming here before I start. We had an youth orchestra rehearsal and concert in the primary school just up the road, up that way. And very hot day. We came down here for lunch to sit beside the river. We might do a picnic on the water. And in the summer, sorry, as you can imagine, in the autumn and winter, during when the floods, when there's been a lot of heavy rainfall, you can see here just how high the water level does get along the side there, and underneath the bridge. Imagine living in something like that next to the water. It's quite nice. Yeah. So you can go for a nice little further walk up that way and sit along the side of the river. Delightful. Yeah. A certain first round in the presidential election yesterday in France. I mean, that was an absolute delight, wasn't it? Macron and Marine Le Pen, neck and neck. I mean, who would have thought? But of course, all the usual suspects, certainly in the UK, no doubt elsewhere, are throwing paroxysms of utter horror. I mean, they're absolutely petrified at the prospect of Marine Le Pen might become president. Because, well, her father, not necessarily because of who she is, associations with her father. And as we know, he did leave the NF, the Front National, France. That's not Marine. She's distanced herself from that quite considerably over the past 20 years. She's, I guess we could call it, more of a centrist candidate, and probably more along the lines of Thatcher was in the late 70s and early 80s. It split France down the middle because the way the elections, only two candidates can go through to the second round. And of course, that's neutralised the centre, so people might feel more inclined to not vote for Marlene because there is nobody else other to vote for against Macron, and they might not want to. They might be more inclined just to want to back somebody else instead of her to get rid of Macron, or maybe to diminish his lead. Still, in the UK here, commenters such as Ian Dunt, yeah, they're absolutely shitting themselves about Marine Le Pen. And the far right candidate, and that's what the BBC describe her as. Well, it's not really that simple, though, is it? Because of Dan Hodges, he's another one, of course. Because of where the Overton window is, the Overton window has been shifted so far to the left. Anything that isn't on that left liberal view, from the left liberal viewpoint of the accepted discourse or accepted area of discussion, accepted views, anything to the right of that is far right. So anything that is centrist, what used to be called centrist, is now right wing, to the right. And anything even more right wing than that, which is what the Tory party were quite a long time ago, that would be described as far right. It's anything involving any form of libertarianism. Yeah, that's today. That would be described as far right, wouldn't it? It's utterly insane that you can't really have a sensible discussion about that, because where the Overton window is, it's all seen as relative to that being shifted to that far. That is where the discussion is. So anything here is unacceptable. So anything there is only acceptable, and that is considered to be, well, we can get there at some point, can't we? And this has gone shifted gradually that way. So that's the end. Sadly, that's the end of any discussion or any reason you could have with many on the left. And it's all rather sad that the only way that is only sensible to any discussion you can have is to first of all agree with the left, or rather appease them. But yes, we understand you have these concerns, we understand what you're saying. It's the same with the Tories, Welsh Conservatives here in the Assembly. They've shifted so far to the left, trying to get some form of, or try to get the votes off Labour on Plaid Cymru, because the Overton window is so far to the left here in Wales. But their position is to try to, they've had to shift to the left themselves. Even then, they're still seen as far right because of Brexit, of course. So they try to frame any debate is to say that they concede, or rather they accept that certain ideas are accepted and that might be seen as mainstream, and then they try to walk in eggshells. That's a sad thing. They walk in eggshells to try to justify an alternative viewpoint more to the right. And of course, once you start to stray more to the right in any part of discussion in Wales than from the accepted centre, or what we could call the centre, it's on the left and far left these days, of collectivism and identity politics. And that's when the howling starts, and certainly orchestrated by the BBC. So how dare you have anything that goes against the orthodoxy of the left here in Wales? So how can you have any form of democracy when all the parties toe that one line of being on the left, but without wanting any discussion as to diversity of viewpoint? Well, there isn't much. And sadly, this is enforced by the Llywydd in the Senedd and her treatment of various AMs who dare to posit any alternative viewpoint. And the way that they've been treated as such, it's not very good, really. So it would be disastrous for the great project, wouldn't it, if Le Pen got elected in France? Absolutely disastrous. I mean, her stated aim is to try to get France out of the EU, is it not? And she is, well, basically, she's a female version of Trump as far as many people are concerned. And look how well that went down. So you can imagine the screeching. Of course, we have to have diversity in politics. So you'd have thought that the women would appreciate having a female president in France for the first time. No, of course not. She's not the right court. She's not the right sort of woman, is she? So that's not going to happen. They're not going to get her support. And of course, everything was thrown at trying to keep Macron in power now. Because if MLP gets in, well, it's the end for an awful lot of things. I mean, there is only continuity. You only must have continuity. And how dare anybody upset that? The globalism agenda, net zero, agenda 2030, and all the rest of it. It's, yeah, I mean, France is going to be the litmus test again, isn't it? To see how we'll go from here in terms of clawing back any sort of a European culture and identity, start crime, and being able to discuss the things which remain forbidden. But failing MLP, she does have a niece as well who does seem to be interested in getting involved in politics. So watch this space, really.